What is a tongue tie? It's a fibrous tissue, as Dr. Ahn told us. This is formed in utero when it's unable to separate from the bottom jaw. And most of us are familiar with something that looks kind of like this. It looks like some kind of rope that's tying the tongue into the bottom jaw. Basically, what is happening is that it comes from the bottom of the mouth and it extends upwards, and it can stop in just the middle of the tongue, or it can go all the way through the tip of the tongue like you saw in the previous picture. So not only is this tissue just under your tongue, but this little skeletal-muscular man over here, everything in blue is everything that is connected to that tongue tissue. So if you're having front hip pain, I don't know if you can see my cursor, but if you're having front hip pain here, guess what? It could be coming from here. What about the arches under your feet? Yes, that could be from your tongue tie. And I also want to point out, since we're all singers, look how much blue is happening here in the neck, in this overactive neck area. And I also want you to notice how it passes right through that diaphragmatic region. And this is a gross but accurate picture. This is actually taken out of a cadaver. And this is the entire fascial line that you see here from a real person. And look how it expands over this entire umbrella of the diaphragm here. So we'll talk about, and Elizabeth can tell you all, that this tension on the fascial line, think about it like a spider web. If I clench this side, it pulls on everything else that's connected to it. And so even if your tongue is restricted, not only is that going to inhibit the tongue's mobility and the tongue's isolation, but it's going to travel down that entire line and give you ankle issues, or it's going to give you lower back pain, or in Elizabeth's case, it's going to prevent you from being able to exhale. Or in some of my other singing clients, they have an inability to expand the ribs upon inhale. And so it changes just a little bit because all of us are a little different, but this entire line does not change within us. And so everything that comes along this train station is getting affected by this tongue tie.
May I insert something really fast?
Yeah.
So 2 things with this in mind, now that you just heard this. While I was on the chair and Dr. Ahn was doing releases under my tongue, she'd get some and then she'd wait a bit and then she'd do a little more. At one point, I spontaneously exhaled more deeply than I've ever known in my life. It was utterly bizarre. It was utterly bizarre, but fabulous. Also, that feeling that I described at the beginning where I had this tugging throughout my whole body, all the way down to my feet, from the day after I got the tongue tie released, that just went away and it's never come back. Anyway.
So if it sounds like witchcraft, I know, bear with me on this because I've been doing this every day for 5 years and it still does sometimes feel like witchcraft. But yes, so most of my singers, when they go get this release in the chair, they feel an instantaneous kinesthetic response to this. And they're like, oh my God, my shoulder tension. I thought that was from my computer work or something. Nope, it's from your tongue tie. Oh, you know, I never told you this out loud, but my ears would always pop only on my right side when I swallowed. And now that I got rid of that, now that stopped. Everything is always connected. So anyway, I digress. Let's keep going here. Most of us, like I showed you before with these pictures, we're like, oh, I can see some kind of white rope in there, therefore I have a tongue tie. I mean, yes, these people do have tongue ties, but what about the people you can't see? What about all of these hidden tongue ties that we have? What about this guy? There's not really any like white rope. I guess there's kind of like a little one there, but he's able to lift his tongue up all the way. He has a fair amount of mobility. His teeth look pretty nice. So there's not really anything going on there, right? Well, what if I show you an after picture of his tongue tie release? Does that look like a big mobility change to you? Yeah, because this guy got 40% more mobility. 40, that is a lot. So I just want to point out that you can't always see what's going on. You have to do what we call a functional assessment or a mobility assessment. So here is me before my tongue tie release. So you'll see in my first picture, there's not really any compensation going on there. You can see a little bit of tie there, but like, it doesn't look like a big deal. And when I'm asked to put the whole portion of my tongue up on the roof of my mouth, I'm still able to open it pretty big. But guess what? This was only 75%. That doesn't look very dangerous, but 75% in a career field where the competition is so high, you wouldn't go 75% prepared to a competition, right? There's no way that you're going to win that. So 75% is really just not good enough. So now that I've sufficiently scared you all, I'm going to scare you all a little more. On average, about 75% of adults have some kind of tongue tie. And of those 75, 45% have moderate to severe ties. And if that seems like a staggering number, I completely agree with you. It is a staggering number, but I'm going to give you another number. There is 70% of the population that wears eyeglasses. And we see that as nothing to really bat an eye over. So I don't want us to be too afraid by this idea of surgery. We'll talk about this a little more, but basically it's like getting a filling. It's an in and out procedure. It's over quickly, and you get to live the rest of your life in freedom. So I feel like that's a pretty fair trade-off.